I'm recording this approximately 10 months later, and I talked to a very highly placed official in Washington, D.C., because I was asking for some help, and Patriot Relief is helping every family we can. Rebuilding Hollers is helping every family they can, but we're very tiny and we don't have a huge amount of resources. But there's big money that's gone into Asheville and Boone. So this highly placed official said, I don't know what y'all are still working on. I thought things were in hand. And I said, well, if you go to the main part of Asheville or the main part of Boone, it does look like things are in hand, but you go just a few minutes out and you start seeing there's a very broad divide. So why does that happen?